It's been a while since I've done a video just compiling a bunch of different things to do with the OC into one long form video. I've done a lot of ones that are just one-offs on a particular type of OC related activity, but I kind of wanted to bring this back and just yap about a bunch of different things to do with your OCs. This is one of many parts of a very long series I do with OCs, so if you do like more OC content, I have a couple of them linked in the description, and I always have them in playlists, so you can find them there. Just like the other videos, this one is not technically a drawing required video, so you don't necessarily need to do a lot of heavy drawing. Starting with, of course, the digital based activities. I started doing this one after watching a really neat tutorial on how to do some of these on CapCut, and I've talked about edits before, and templates particularly, but these ones are ones that you do yourself, and I'll probably be linking the tutorial I used in the description. But they're very simple and very fun, and you don't really need a lot of OC art or OC art at all in these, but they're OC collage edits. And basically what you're doing, or what I did, is I gathered a bunch of different things, like photos from Pinterest, already drawn things of my character, and a bunch of different GIFs that I thought were cute, and put them all together into this collage-like edit. This didn't take me very long. After watching the tutorial like once or twice, I was able to do it all in one go, and I think they come out really cute. I kind of like the way that they look a lot more than the average template, and it's nice to do it yourself, I guess, in a way. I've already done maybe like 2 of these now. Again, it is really simple, just compiling a bunch of images into an edit, and you don't really need to have anything animated for this, I don't think either, which is really nice. It's really convenient and easy to do. The second one, you don't really need to draw anything with these, but I think it really helps re-inspire me to do different like animations and things, but it's kind of separated from that, and that's like voice claim lists. I have a bunch of different lists of different voice actors and characters that I think match the voices of my characters, and it's become a really extended list as of late. And while you don't have to draw characters or animate them doing any of these, I think it's really fun to revisit these lists and then use some voice lines from a character to then animate later. But I just think it's cute to have these lists and then kind of go on a hunt to try and find a voice actor that matches the voice that you think of for your characters, because I'm very specific, I think, about the way that my characters' voices sound, so I really do have to do some digging and find voices that I think match properly. So I think it is a pretty fun activity, but it is a little bit tedious, especially if you're a little bit of a stickler like me. Still an option, it's out there, I don't do this next one as often, but when it comes to making references, I do use it a lot. But you can use this instead as a way to make references for your characters, and this is through a method called Photobashing, and this is a very, I think, common art-related activity in general. Basically, photobashing a bunch of different images together to make something close to a reference for your OC. And it doesn't have to be like real-life images either. I know in some particular fandoms, some people make assets of a bunch of different character details, and I think a while ago I used to see a bunch of different Genshin OCs that would use a bunch of photobashed images together to make their OCs, and I thought those were really cool and a really creative way of making something of your character without necessarily having to draw. Like this last activity that I talked about, it is a little bit tedious, and I do think it requires some form of effort to do, but I think it's worth it, especially if you don't feel like you want to draw in that moment. You know what I mean? And I think it's really useful for creating references for your characters if you're not feeling like drawing at that moment. And just making references in general And who knows, maybe you can go back and look at that reference and then draw it in your own art style later. I just think it's really fun. I love collage. So, photobashing is a form of digital collage in a way. The last digital-based activity I want to talk about is one that I've been seeing a lot on TikTok recently, and I decided to look into it, and it's actually a pretty fun app. It's called Gogh, and I thought it was an OC game of sorts, similar to Zepto or something, but it turns out it's actually more of a study and productivity app, and that was really nice. It has a bunch of really neat features, and I think it's just really cute that you get to study or do focus time with your OC, and somehow that's made me a lot more productive. I don't know, I think it's just the idea of studying with another thing in the background. It just has a bunch of really cute little features in it. I do wish that they had more textured hairstyles because there isn't any in the game at the moment, and it does take a little bit longer to load. Just give it maybe 5 minutes or so, and it took a while for me to load to sign up first, but it'll load eventually, guys, trust. Moving on to our next segment, which is writing-based activities to do with your OCs. This one is a little bit smaller than the past ones I've done, but these are just a couple that I've been doing a lot of as of late. So starting off with our first, I realized very recently that basically all of the documents and stories that I've been writing that are linked to my school account will be wiped at the end of the year when I graduate. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to save everything. And so very recently I've been making a ton of different MasterDocs, which are essentially compiling all of your documents into one large one. And it's very easy to do through Google Docs, and you can make little tabs on the side for each of those different categories you want them in, separate them through headers to make it easy to jump from different story to story. And I don't know, I've found it to be really fun to archive all of my work and then kind of reflect on it by default, just kind of breezing through everything. And I think it emphasizes the importance of archiving work, especially ones that, you don't know what's going to happen to them. So I've already made a couple copies of these MasterDocs, but I think it's just kind of a fun activity that doesn't require drawing necessarily, because you're just copy and pasting all of your writing into one saved space. And I think it's also nice for organization's sake and to reference if you do future writing. Moving on to the next activity. This is technically writing based, but it is very simple, and I think you could easily do this on digital too, but I think it's a lot easier to do traditionally. But that's character signatures. I think they're really neat, and I think by extension also figuring out the ways that your character would write if you are that advanced with, your penmanship. That's really cool. I don't have very good handwriting, or in general handwriting that can change very easily, so I don't do the handwriting part of that, but I do a couple signatures for each of my characters, and then it's kind of really cute to add to specific things, especially if you have a character that does a lot of signatures. Adding that in the artworks later is really cool. But I think it's very simple, really fun also to just mess around with all of the really fun things with signatures, and how exactly each character's signature is different and ties back to a bunch of things, if it does. And this last one, again, very simple, not necessarily something that's going to take up a lot of your time, and I think it's just one of my favorite things to do with characters, point blank, to just keep them all in one long form document to look at later, is individual character outlines. Sometimes it's important to look at the basics of a character when it comes to basically all of their personality and simple abridged backstories, whatnot. I think it's also a really fun way to, again, get yourself re-inspired to draw, going to the core of each character and making a simple sort of guideline for yourself to look back at. It can easily be adjusted, and I think they're pretty cool. And it is really fun to just have a section of character outlines. It's pretty convenient. Moving on to the last segment of this is craft activities. These ones go from like fairly normal to pretty crazy, so do bear with me when it comes to these. But this first one was really simple, I think. So a while back, I was in like the clearance section of Walmart, and they had a couple of the Decora Girls dolls for cheaper, and since they were on sale, I bought like 2 of them. And when I opened one of them, I was like, I could customize it to look a little bit more like my character. So this is kind of similar to the figure repainting I did previously. I think you could get like really advanced with it if you're talented enough, but all I really did was like recolor the eyes and like slightly alter a bunch of different things. Regardless, they're really cute, and I don't know, I think it's pretty cool to make a doll look like your character. I've talked a lot about different DIYs or just replacements for making like pins in general, and this is one of them that I think is really easy to do, that you don't need aluminum for, because I do use soda cans mostly to make my own custom pins. But if you don't have those, one of the crafts that I've been doing recently is plastic bottle cap pins. While not like the metal ones that I've talked about before, this one's a lot simpler, but because of it, it's a lot more flimsy. I made one of them of my brother's character recently, and I think it turned out really nice. All you need to do is hot glue a safety pin into the back of a plastic bottle cap, and then Mod Podge the piece of paper or whatever on top of it and seal it from there. It only really requires like 3 different steps. They are pretty durable. They last fairly long, depending on how much hot glue you put up in there. It's pretty flimsy regardless. So you might need a little bit of drawing, but not serious drawing, I don't think. And you can easily print out things too for these pins, so you don't necessarily have to draw, you know what I mean? This one you don't really need to draw anything either. It's kind of optional, so you already have a pre-drawn thing of your character. They're pretty easy to find. I got a couple new ones from Daiso, and I'll probably do like a decorating video on just that. But really all you're doing is taking a photo or drawing a photo, but you don't really need to draw it, and putting it inside of the badge and then decorating the badge. And the nice thing about it is technically reusable, unless you're sealing it with stickers, which is what I do. So you're not really changing it, I guess, in my case. But you can if you aren't going to decorate it with stickers. And I think it's really simple. You can also add a bunch of little charms to it and then hang it as a keychain and whatnot. I think it's a nice alternative to making keychains the other ways that I have, where they're not as sturdy, because these will last you a pretty long time because of how thick they are. This one is an extension of one of the crafts I did in my DIY video, the one with the IDs. This one's technically a little bit optional if you already have those IDs made, but since I have a bunch of characters who have the same ID, I thought it'd be really neat to sort of decorate each of them to match each character. And I think it adds a little bit more personality, especially to the ones that have the same, again, ID template, because then it gives them a little bit more life. And this can be really simple, like adding scuff marks or dirt, or in one of these cases, adding a bunch of sparkly stickers and little doodles all over it. I think it makes the ID a little bit more interesting and differentiate each of the IDs from each other. And our last one for this video was basically a fail on my end, but if you do have the talent and you do have the time to learn this, I think it'd be really cool in concept. I'm just really bad at, I guess, learning new things on my own. But I received a wood carving set very recently, and so I thought it'd be cool to make little like wooden things of my OC, or at least a couple of my OCs. Very quickly I realized that this was not something I could just jump into, and I immediately injured myself. So if you do end up doing any wood carving, I do recommend that you actually get proper education on it first, because I jumped into that and oh my gosh, it hurt. since you are working with blades, it is very dangerous. So again, get proper help with this, but if you already have the skill set for it, make wooden carvings of your characters. I think that's really cool, and once I do get the chance to properly redo that or actually finish the project, I will let you guys know. But I think it'd be really cool. And I think that wraps up basically all of the things I have for today. If there's any that I haven't talked about before, or if you want to, talk about some of the ones that you like to do, let me know. And if you do need help with any of the things that I mentioned, I'll try to help with the best of my abilities. I'm always up for discussion. Or if you just want to yap about your OCs, that works too. So, yeah.